Cultural identity theory is a process that involves accepting or learning about traditions, languages, social constructs, and heritage of culture.
It also pertains to a person's identification to a group or culture. These groups have the ability to shape our experiences.
A way millennials identify to a culture is through the use of Snapchat, which is why we chose to present our project through that medium.
This theory comes from the socio-psychological tradition due to its interpretive perspective on the researcher's methods of observing distinctive signs of culture identity amongst subjects.
Due to this same reasoning, the theory is classified as an interpretivist epistemology. Throughout the articles, all articles are extracted from the approved research journal Communication, Culture, and Critique.
The article studying ethnic minorities' media uses, comparative conceptual reflections, discusses the conceptual issues of ethnic culture presented in communication through media. Researcher Marta Cola stated, "The national context does indeed remain important, not just for socio-political life, but also for the organization of media, and indeed for the politics and context of migration and diversity." Researcher Marta Cola also describes her findings as people of various ethnicities identifying together because they encounter the same issues as being part of an audience.
The next article found is Negotiating Adaptation, Perceptions of Culture and Communication Among Cultural Sojourners, demonstrating a new take on the theory, applying to foreigners who have adapted to their host culture, then going back to their original culture with their original adaptations. Clark Callahan, the author of this journal, explores cultural identity theory with the concept of re-entry into a culture. Readaptation is even more difficult than initial culture shock because it is often unexpected. Those who have adapted to their host culture and travel back home. Callahan uses this quote from cultural communications scholar Martin to say that cultural identity theory is changing migration because as immigrants experience culture shock, they soon adapt and upon returning home go through reverse culture shock, causing them to return because they no longer identify with their native culture.
The next article, entitled Hope is Finally Making a Comeback, First Lady Reframed. Relina L. Joseph, researcher, explained that people can identify with a culture through social movements, bringing in a second theory called politically by women of color. Joseph uses this theory as a method finder by analyzing speeches from First Lady Michelle Obama. Her speeches, community work, and intelligence have inspired women of color to identify with each other and continue the women of color movement as a cultural identity within American culture.
In this next article, a post-gay era, media, gay streaming, homonormality, and the politics of LGBT interrogation, Eve Nig did primarily interpretive research by interviewing the producers of Logo TV, a television station marketed exclusively to bi, trans, and gay viewers. In this approach, Nig demonstrates how the network is taking a new approach in cultural identity to attract homosexual women to their network. Alongside industrial changes in media production, the goal of attracting homosexual women imagined to share the particular affinities with gay men has been the key to driving Logo towards taste and style-based reality programming. This shows how the media can use the theory of cultural identification to its advantage.
This final paper, Assimilationism versus Multiculturalism, U.S. Identity and Media Representations of British Muslims over a 12-year time span, analyzes cultural identity theory through the assimilation of Muslims into British culture. Researcher Galana gathers information by studying people's behavior coming into a new culture being a different ethnicity. This paper related back to the idea that through culture assimilation, one can identify with a new culture rather than one that they were brought up with. As the Muslims assimilated into Great Britain, they re-identified with British culture, thereby demonstrating culture identity theory.
Students in the arts can identify as a social culture. I chose to show the performing arts culture because I enjoy how comfortable my music and theater friends are in performing in front of each other, bursting out into song randomly, and talking very loudly. We even have an element of the social penetration theory because people within the social group feel comfortable being very physical with each other by hugging a lot or laying on each other during our breaks at rehearsal. Hey everybody! Happy first dress rehearsal!
As first-year students, we adapt to new environments. To make an easy transition, we make friends, play games, join clubs and activities, and create new relationships with one another. We identify with one another based on being in an unfamiliar territory and having to equally adapt.
As a member of a Greek letter organization, I understand hard work and dedication. When I officially became a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, I became a part of Greek culture. Yes, we have fun, but more importantly, we are dedicated to service, scholarship, and the bonds that we develop over time.
Recently, I observed many different forms of cultural identity through the urban streets of New York City. Grand Central Station.